Hey everybody, it's Tim. I'm going to be bringing you today a hopefully simple project where we will be building upon a previous video's project where basically we want to have someone be able to connect their Ethereum address to our website and then show OpenSea items that they own for their address. We're going to be using the OpenSea API. Other marketplaces have different APIs. We're going to be working with the OpenSea one. It should hopefully be pretty simple, and most people tend to use OpenSea. But either way, before we get started, I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone who's been commenting on the videos, saying that they're helpful. Not complaining that the video is not in 1080p. I figured out how to do that, and hopefully this video that you're watching right now is also in 1080. And also just like a huge shout out to everybody that's been really supportive. I'm hoping to keep videos coming out at a more regular interval. I've got a list of videos that I'm hoping to accomplish. Some might be short, some might be comprehensive, but either way, I'm going to try and always keep things as understandable as possible. And I'm responsive in the comments, so if you have a question, just leave it. Either way, before we hop into the actual project, this template that we're going to be starting out with is actually from an existing video where we basically log in with Web3 and then save that to the browser and interact with a contract on the Rinkeby network. I'll link this template because we're going to be modifying this heavily. We're going to be actually deleting this entire huge function right here. This will be pretty modified heavily. If you want to follow along, that's great. It's probably not necessary because I will also link the gist for this completed project at the end of the video once we're done programming everything up. So just to get started, I pretty much copied this entire index.html into a file. We actually don't need web3.js for this. All we need is just the window.ethereum object. And if you've been following along, you know that if someone has MetaMask installed, that's available. So this is pretty much what it looks like. It's nothing fancy. It's, I've changed the title. There's still the login and save, with local storage, ether address. And then there's the new button now. It says get OpenSea assets. What I'm hoping to do is essentially, actually I can show you if we uncomment this, and uncomment this. What I'm hoping to do is have, a list of items. Now, I don't own a Bored Ape, right? Like if I did, I wouldn't have to make YouTube videos. But I want to show, an NFT here with its name and a description and have this button to when I click it, it go to the OpenSea asset. That would be pretty cool, right? And this would be dependent on whatever address we logged in with or the user logged in with. So this is just kind of like a template object just because I didn't want to spend too much time writing CSS. That's not really critical to what we're trying to do here. But if you're familiar with OpenSea, they actually have a resources section and you can actually go to their documentation and then actually they have an API reference here. Now, some things before we get into this API. This API is hosted on OpenSea. OpenSea has a reputation for not having the best uptime. That's probably the nicest thing I can say. So if this API is non-responsive, you may actually even have to resort to sometimes just interacting directly with the blockchain. That's way out of scope for this video. We're just going to use this nice little API they provide us for free. So we should be thankful for that. This API also does have some limitations, not only to throttling, which is how many requests can you send to a single endpoint or to the entire API at a time. Or within a certain time frame, but also the kind of data you can get back. So a lot of people will always be like, how do I get the floor price? How do I get the floor price? Which also, if you are not intimately familiar with how, what a floor price is, let's just go to any collection ever. For example, like Mechaverse, okay? So if I go to the Mechaverse thing, there's a floor price. This is pretty much like what's the cheapest one that you can get right now. And right now it's for 0.86 ETH. Getting this data right here is not available through the free API. That you actually have to get an API key. And getting an API key with OpenSea is quite difficult. They have an area on the webpage. You can request one. But Again, out of scope for this video, and the API key response time can take quite a while. So if you're hoping to build anything using OpenSea's API, and it's going to be pretty involved, like calculating floor prices, you're going to want to apply for an API key way before you start your project. Anyway, we're going to be working with just giving a Ethereum address that's a person, right? And then getting a list of assets back. So this is the URL we want to be using, which is this api.opensea.io API v1 assets. Okay. Now you can see there are a bunch of parameters that they allow us to put in to this that will filter our results, right? We just want to have the owner. So what we can do here is actually we can test this out. And actually, well, I've already done it. I've used my ETH address, but you see if we just put in owner here, let's click try it, see if it works. Okay, so the reference guide is broken. Luckily enough, we can actually just go to the API URL directly, which is not broken, which is, you can see right here, this really long string. You can see there's an owner parameter, and that is where our ETH address would go. You can see right here, we're here, and what it'll return is a JSON object with a key called assets that is an array of objects where each object is a separate asset. So like, for example, this first one is an ENS domain I own. The second one is an NFT for this DAO that I'm a part of. So like what we're gonna do is just basically grab the image URL, which will give us essentially like what the NFT looks like, right? We're gonna get the image URL, and then we're probably gonna get, I don't know, let's say the name and the description. And then also we want to have the OpenSea listing link, which is called the permalink. Now you can see there's a whole lot of data here. There's data about the actual contract that the NFT belongs to. So, you know, from there you could get contract address and open it up in Etherscan or interact with it directly if you have the ability to do so by using the ABI. There's also the collection, which is what it looks like on OpenSea. So like, for example, Telegram URL, Twitter username, Instagram, blah, blah, blah. If you wanted to like hot link to that NFT collection, you know, thing, like if you wanted to show like the Discord URL or whatever. So this hopefully shouldn't be too bad. There's some other things we can note in the URL. So we have the owner parameter, which is what we're going to be using to find out what NFTs this address owns. There's also an order direction. So this is descending. I assume this would be keyed by the ID, which it does look like to be the case. Then there is an offset and then a limit. So this limit can actually be adjusted. I think the maximum that you can do is 50. I don't own 50 NFTs, but if I did, you would be able to display 50 at a time. Now, let's say I owned 51 NFTs. How do I get the 51st NFT if I'm stopped at limit 50? That is when you start incrementing the offset. Think of the offset as a page. So, and let me actually make sure that I'm telling you the correct directions before I do that. The offset, oh, it just literally says offset. Well, that's great. Let's do 10, and let's do an offset of 1. Because you may actually have to offset by the amount you're requesting by. Which actually, you know what? You definitely have to do that. So to get the 51st NFT, we would probably have to do 50, and then you could do a limit of 50 again. And then if you wanted to get the second page, you would just do 50 times 2, and then 50 times 3, and then 50, and so on and so on. If this account has that many NFTs, they are particularly an avid person collecting NFTs. So let's just get started interacting with this API and, you know, just see if we can display some stuff. Something else to note, we're on production. So this is mainnet Ethereum API. There is a testnets hyphen API, and that will be interfacing with Rinkeby if for whatever reason you wanted to do that. Okay, so we have in this kind of like HTML layout, you see that we have this new block that is pretty much contains a grid element that is 4 columns wide, and it's called OpenSea items. That's the ID. And inside of it will be these little templates that I've created, which essentially is what shows the NFT, the name, and the description. So really what we need to do is have this button that says get OpenSea assets. When we click it, to go and talk to OpenSea and then just populate all of these. just keep populating NFTs until it runs out of NFTs, and then maybe we could paginate. I'll probably leave that as an exercise for you because we're learning. And, sometimes you just got to bang your head on the keyboard to learn. But either way, let's start creating a function for this. This is going to be a asynchronous function because we're talking to an API, and so we don't want to have to wait. But either way, we can just do async function, and we'll do get OpenSea items. And because the window user address is going to be populated by the time we get to this, which we can just check right here to where basically if this is null, just return. Just return, because if they don't have an address to give us, we don't even know what to look for, so we'll just stop right there. There's also, we want to probably be appending items as a child to this div. So we probably want to get this element by ID and just call it, let's call it OS container. And we'll do document get element by ID, OpenSea items. And then I guess, yeah, let's start adding items, I suppose. So what we're going to do first is see if we can interact with this API without, getting like a CORS request error or anything like that. So this is pretty much the full URL that we need. So I'm just going to copy it. But there will be one change. This is a GET request, so there's really no params. We might need to add a content type if we wanted to. But what's more important, and the reason I put this in backticks, as you can see, this is not quotes. These are little backticks right above the escape key, is because we need to actually throw a variable in here, and that is going to be window.userAddress. Everything else can stay the same for now because we're probably just going to get the first page. And then let's do get the response, and then do response.json so that we can make sure that we're, that we have a JSON response. And then we can do another then. And then, of course, if everything goes wrong because OpenSea is offline, we probably want to do a catch and just do a console error, and we'll just throw it like that. Say console error could not talk to OpenSea. Okay, and then we'll return null. And we'll have items right here, and then from there we'll be essentially awaiting for this fetch to complete. And let's throw a debugger right here. And now, before we do anything, we actually have to have the button do something. So we can just do this on-click function, do get OpenSea items. So let's add an inspect element to this page so that we can, I just realized that because we don't have an ETH address yet, we need to connect. So we'll connect first. Okay, now we're connected. The reason it didn't prompt is because I've already done a example with this URL before, so my MetaMask already trusts this URL. You may see a small prompt to log in with your wallet. Anyway, if we click get OpenSea assets, you can see that we actually got debugged right here. And we actually have an array of 21 items because that's probably as many NFTs as I own. The limit was 50. And you'll see that if we do res assets, we have this. And then each one is an object that has a token ID, that has the num sales. It looks exactly like this, right? And so each item is, pretty normalized. Like, the fields are the fields. You won't have varying fields between items. And this also seems to return Matic assets as well. So you don't even have to, go anywhere else to do that. Okay, so next what we're going to do is, since we have all the assets, we'll just let's do const, and we'll do assets equal res. This will give us, a variable called assets that we deconstructed from res. And then we're going to go over each item in the array and append a new HTML element to the body, and then we'll be done. So let's do that real quick. Let's do res map, and we'll do NFT. We'll just call it NFT because that's explicitly what we are getting. And actually, you know what? Because we did this await function, let's just return res.assets actually, because if we awaited this function, then we're expecting something to come back. So there's no need to append right now. So let's actually return the assets to this, and now we can actually do this whole appending work outside of the fetch statement. It'll make our code a lot cleaner and more understandable to the next person that comes along. So we can check first if items.length is equal to 0. We can just return because if they don't have any NFTs, there's nothing to show. We could, however, append a string to the body and just be like, you have no NFTs. Try and do that if you would like to. That would be hopefully pretty easy to accomplish. But now we can actually do the work. So let's do map NFT because we're going to be mapping over an array. And I mean, technically you're supposed to have a return value with a map. So we could actually do a for each here. So because a for each doesn't expect something to get returned. And then what we're going to do is this OS container, and we're going to do append child. And this is when we're going to have this giant template string. Well, it's really not giant, but we're going to just copy paste this whole guy. And we'll tab this over, make it look prettier. Get rid of this HTML comment. And this is when we actually want to get some information from the NFT response. So what we want to grab is something like I don't know, name, right? That's what we want to grab. We want to grab name. Let's see, what are some other ones that we want? Oh, image URL, of course. So we'll do image URL. And then let's do description. Let's do description because description will be nice. And also, like, if you aren't familiar with how I'm deconstructing these objects, essentially, like, anything that is a top level key, right? So that would be like something that is at the, like right underneath the bracket. So like name, image URL, token ID, all of those things, you can just do this and it will actually like deconstruct the object and it'll make it a variable name. But let's say, like, for example, you wanted to get like asset contract and you wanted to get address, but just address. Well, what you could do is you could just do asset contract, and then since we're inside of another object, you would then just put address in here, and now you would have a variable name called address that would match this. That's just if you were interested in wondering how this deconstruction works. Maybe you already know how it works, but we also need a permalink, right? That is another top level key right here, and that is the link to OpenSea. So we want permalink right there. Now we add a little space right here, and we've got name, image URL, description. Now all we need to do is just pretty much put the stuff where it needs to go. So we'll go right here. This is going to be permalink. This will be image URL. Image URL. And then we also need name down here. And then we also want to add a description. And hopefully what this should do is this should loop over each NFT item and append this HTML inside as a child of the OpenSea items, which actually means we can get rid of this. And maybe if we wanted to add a comment, so just OpenSea items go here. There we go. And hopefully when we click the button, we should get some results now. So let's go back to our page, refresh it, click get OpenSea assets, and nothing happened. So what happened? Failed to execute append child on node. Did we get element by ID? OpenSea items. How about this? How about we go right here and we add a debugger. So this is part of programming. Sometimes I'll have something in my head and it'll make perfect sense for why it should work, and then it doesn't. So we have OS container, which is correct. And then what we want to do is this append child. We may have to actually make a whole new node, basically a new element that we insert HTML in and then just kind of go from there. Let's see with this. Let's see why this doesn't work. If I just kind of paste this in here, yeah, on node, parameter 1 is not of type node. Okay, so we're looking to kind of like, append child will only take a node. Yeah, okay, so it does only take a node. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to have, I guess, technically a const, and we'll have it to be new element, and that'll be, I guess, a document create element, and we'll have it call it be div, and we'll do new element dot inner HTML, and that'll be equal to this giant string. So essentially, we're just wrapping everything in a div, which should be harmless, but we shall see. Let's just try this solution out first. So new element. We'll refresh. Click this, and there we go. Okay, so that worked. You can see, obviously, these are all NFTs that I own. I own a bunch. Most of them I made, so that's why they kind of look like trash. But either way, if I click on like this guy, right, we now go to the asset, and the name is wobblebug number 222. And look at that. Now, oh, look at this. Description is null. That's a problem because I mean, that's just ridiculous, right? Like, we can't be having that. So here we can have description, and then actually you should be able to just do this, which this is a null coalesce operator. So let's check to see that this works before I say that it's right. Okay, there we go. So basically what this means is if description is not null, put the description. Otherwise, if it is null, do a blank string, so that we don't just print the word null, because that is just, I mean, that's just a rookie mistake, and we're not rookies here. And so yeah, anyway, this is pretty much how you would, grab the assets for an address. If they are logged into your site and you have access to their address, you could hook up a little button, talk to the OpenSea API, get a list of all of their stuff. You could display traits. You can go wild here. So this that I'm adding right here, this script, like this whole function that I added that does all of this will be in the snippet that you can reference. Feel free to delete it and code along. I would really encourage you to go and explore more of these kind of API like parameters. Like there's I don't know, the current owner, right? You can go username and get their name or their profile image. There's a whole lot you can do with this totally free OpenSea API that they provide us. Yeah, so just go crazy. And this was a requested video from somebody else that had commented. Hopefully this helps you go along with whatever project you're trying to build. But that is it for now, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.